Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Surefire Podcast. I'm your host, Pat Martin, aka the Commish, and joining me tonight is my co-host, Aaron Downtown Brown,
Hey.
and the other co-host, the one and only Ethan Weaver.
Commish, how we doing?
Doing pretty good, boys. Doing pretty good. We are here to recap the football that we saw on Sunday quickly, and then talk about the big game coming up here. As we know, AFC, NFC championship games were just last week. On the NFC side, you had the Philadelphia Eagles coming on top over the Washington Commanders. They won 425 to 13. That's certainly what it felt like if you were watching that game, unless you were an Eagles fan. It was a blowout pretty quick, though. So I guess any takeaways quickly from that game?
I mean, unfortunately, the Cinderella story that was the Washington Commanders fell a little short. They played so well against the Detroit Lions to make it to the NFC Championship, but they just shot themselves in the foot too many times. The Philadelphia Eagles just have too good of a team from top to bottom. They couldn't overcome those costly turnovers. I mean, what a season, though, for the Commanders. Jane Daniels looks like the real deal. Terry McLaurin finally broke out here. So it was a great year for them, but the Philadelphia Eagles proved to be just a little too much for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of football fans were pulling for the Commanders. I think we'll get into that. But I think like both teams that won, both Eagles and Chiefs, don't they don't have a whole lot of they're not on everybody's good side, right? So, but yeah, I think it is very promising in both real football for the Commanders in years to come, and then obviously for fantasy. If you got shares of Jaden Daniels, I think you're pretty happy.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels' stock is through the roof in Dynasty. You'll definitely see him skyrocketing up pre-draft rankings as well as we get closer to the summer, as 2025 gets closer. Definitely a big resurgence for Washington as well. I mean, that's a franchise that's been in the doldrums for the better part of the last 25 years. So it's nice to see them put together a good season. It's kind of hard to believe they were picking just second in the NFL draft in April, and now look at them now. They show up in a conference championship game, and they have the third most cap space as well in the NFL at this moment in time to keep building this roster. We'll see if that new ownership group really wants to take advantage of Jaden Daniels on that rookie contract and spend in other areas to make that team better and hopefully keep rebuilding Washington to a spot where they're getting to Super Bowls in the near future. But we got to talk the other side of this game, unfortunately. We had the Bills coming up short yet again. Where have you ever heard that before if you're a Buffalo Bills fan? They come up short in the NFC Championship game. They lose another close game to the Kansas City Chiefs, 32-29. Bills just didn't do the little things necessary to win these games, and the Chiefs did, and that's the reason that they're marching on. But I mean, Aaron is our resident Chiefs fan here, and he reminds us every single day about how good his football team is, Aaron. So go ahead and take your victory lap when your Chiefs going to get another Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an exciting time, to see the Chiefs, make it to another Super Bowl, and I think Nate Burleson said it, really well. Like, there's a lot of haters out there for the Chiefs, a lot of people that don't want to see them win.
But there's
and I know you're not a great audience to talk about this either. Being Patriots fans, right? You probably don't want anyone taking runs at your guys' dynasty run. But as just sports fans in general, I kind of look at some other Super Bowls in the past that just had they were just random, teams that made it. And, I do think that things like this in history are slightly more exciting than just two random matchups. So that's just I'm trying to be from an outsider opinion, try to kind of give that take as a Chiefs fan too. But I guess that's my best rebuttal to the hatred of the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm not going to pull a Nate Burleson and root for greatness there. I'm rooting against greatness. Obviously, you got to tip your cap to the Kansas City Chiefs, but I mean, it's literally, my worst nightmare in terms of probably the country's worst nightmare in terms of the matchup. I mean, Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. But Kansas City, obviously, they came out on top again. Josh Allen just didn't look like the same kind of Josh Allen. I mean, he played his stats. He played okay. He just didn't seem – he just seemed he wasn't the confident player that I feel like we saw all season. He just seemed hesitant to me. He did make some plays, obviously, and I mean Kincaid should have probably got that pass, but I mean you have whatever it was, 3 minutes and 30 something seconds left in the game. You have timeouts. You have a 2-minute warning. You're down 3. He needs to bring his team into the end zone and put his team in a position to win the game, or at least tie it up and try to send it to overtime. So, unfortunately for the Bills, they just didn't make the plays when they had to. Obviously, I mean, the refs gave this one to the Kansas City Chiefs. Just kidding. But, no, but obviously, like that was a massive story, obviously, that you hear on social media and things like that. I mean, you scroll through any Instagram, whatever it is, and that's all you see, people like going crazy about the officiating. I think the biggest reason for that is it's like I felt like the 50-50 calls just never go the other team's way. It always seems to bounce the Chiefs' way. But I mean, the Chiefs do what they need to do when they the stakes are the highest. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, if it's a one-score game late in the fourth quarter, he's going to come out on top. They're too well coached. He's too good of a player. If you want to beat the Chiefs, you got to bury him. You got to bury him early. So, I mean, you got to do what Tom Brady did a few years ago when the Bucs took him out. I mean, because like I said, if it's close late in the game, you probably don't have a chance.
Yeah, and I guess let's just round into what we think about the game itself. That's a good segue into that. The Chiefs come in; they're at the moment 1.5 point favorites. The over/under is 48.5. In terms of betting on this game, I mean, just bet the Chiefs. If you want to take them on the money line, that's fine. They're minus 130. Like I've gone down this rabbit hole 2 years ago. With Philly, I said Philly's the better team. I still think Philly, top to bottom, might be the better football team in this matchup, but. We saw this 2 years ago. It didn't matter. In an entirely contested game at the end, the Chiefs make the plays to win these games. So if Philly's going to win this game, I think it's what Ethan, in the manner in which Ethan just laid out, in that Philly needs to win it by double digits. They need to get up ahead in this team and keep their foot to the floor. And I think Kansas City is just, they're maybe not the best team that they've ever had, but they're good enough to keep this a competitive game. And in those scenarios, I trust the Chiefs more. We can say what we will about the officiating, and yeah, obviously that's a factor too. The league isn't going to let them lose a close game, so that's why I say you have to blow them out if you're gonna beat them. And I don't think that's going to happen because they're too good. Their quarterback's too good. They're too well coached, and their defense is really good. This is the top 5 unit in points per game allowed, and I think that's kind of gone under the radar with this Chiefs team in particular. Just how great their defense has been. That team is, that side of the ball has carried this team for the majority of the season. Which is if Mahomes needed more help, he's getting it on defense. So I like the Chiefs on the money line. If you want to take the 1.5, go for it as well. Get close to even money. I like that. I guess I got a parlay to share too. But Aaron, why don't you tell me about tell us who do you think is going to win the game, Aaron? Go ahead.
I wonder how.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, like usual, I usually plead the fifth on outcomes on my beloved Chiefs. So I'm going to plead the fifth there. I guess anyway, I like being the prop guy anyway. I think one interesting thing to keep remembering is like Andy Reid is like the only coach ever in the NFL that has had 2 tight ends to make the Pro Bowl back when he was with the Packers. I think you see flashes of it with Noah Gray. So I think Noah Gray props are exciting to kind of look at. He wasn't really involved last week. But when you look at the Eagles defense, they do have some high caliber people on their defense that can potentially take away a few of the targets to either Worthy or, Kelsey and people like that. So that's when I think Andy Reid can dial up some nice plays to these guys that just defenses forget about. So Noah Gray's anytime touchdown is plus 500. I think that's right there. That's juicy enough for me. So even if it's $5, make $25 on it, right there. So that's my little quick tidbit is, maybe throw some Noah Gray props out there.
I can't wait to see what Aaron parlays that Noah Gray plus 500 anytime touchdown with as we get closer to kickoff.
And other bets.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like attacking the tight ends, obviously, against the Philadelphia Eagles. We all watch Zach Ertz just get peppered against this Eagles defense. I mean, the Eagles have very good corners, so, I mean, that leaves the best matchup on the field in the middle, and that's usually the tight end here. So I think obviously Kelsey burned a lot of us in terms of the prop betting last week. I think he has a pretty big day, and I think Noah Gray has a chance to kind of get in the mix too, considering I think that's one of the spots you can exploit the Philadelphia Eagles because they are so good on the outside. But with this game, I mean, 2 years ago when they played, I mean, this could have went down as one of the better Super Bowls we've seen in a long time if it wasn't for that late Bradbury hold on Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, I mean, that game was like back and forth at the end. I mean, it was wild, and it was very unfortunate that the game pretty much ended with that hold because I believe the Chiefs basically just ran and kneeled out the ball until Buckner there kicked the game-winning field goal. But that game was very intense at the end, and I'm hoping for another good game. But hopefully the Eagles are up by double digits in the second half of this one, even though it does pay me to kind of root for the Eagles because, I mean, we all know that fan base can be a little rough, but it'll be exciting.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. It's always fun to watch Super Bowl, even if we're not a fan of either of the teams involved in the game for sure. I said I had a parlay to share, so I'll do that quickly. I'm sticking with the tight end theme, but going the other direction with this. I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert, who's been very involved in recent weeks, and when he's been healthy this season. And the Chiefs have actually allowed the most receiving yards to opposing tight ends this season, so I like him to go over 50 yards receiving in this game. Also tacking on a Dallas Goedert anytime touchdown and a very conservative over of 39.5 points. You match all that up and you get plus 500 odds. So another, it's not as easy as Noah Gray scoring a touchdown, but I think this is maybe a little more realistic for a guy who's been playing well again in a good matchup and a conservative over, which is always fun to root for points during the big game, guys. So give me your quick thoughts on that, and then we'll round this into some trade conversations here from a dynasty perspective.
No, I like Goddard a lot this week. He's been great throughout these playoffs. I think he's been a go-to guy for Hurts. So I definitely like that part of the parlay. Like his yards. I mean, even if you want to mix in his receptions, I like his reception odds. And then, anytime there's gonna be points scored. So why not Dallas Goedert?
Yeah, and just quickly on that, I know my infamous week where I won my big DFS when I had Goddard in my lineup, and he came through with that really studly stiff arm touchdown, and that helped me get a little cash in my pocket. So
a little cash there,
a little bit.
Well, there you go. Hopefully this one cashes too. We'll see how it pans out. But we did say we wanted to talk about some dynasty trades. We talked risers and fallers in recent weeks, but now we're going to be sticking pretty heavily to trades. But folks out there, if you do have questions, just toss them out there in the comments. We're happy to bring them up and discuss that as well. Just give us as much context as you can. That's always helps us get better analysis as well. But so this first one came from one of our Discord members. They're playing in a 14-team full PPR league. It's a start 9 league. It's really a start 10 league, but they did have a defense in there. But in terms of roster players, it's start 9. The team wants to contend in 2025, and good for you. Might as well try to win that championship while your window is open. But they're faced with a trade here that they wanted to discuss a little further. The deal involves trading away Alvin Kamara in the 208 in this year's draft for Khalil Shakir and Zach Charbonnet. Ethan, where are you at on this trade?
I have a couple different thoughts on it. I mean, I see they're trying to compete. So, I mean, your initial reaction is, hey, why not keep Alvin Kamara? But honestly, I think I'm going to lean Khalil Shakir and Zach Charbonnet with the starting requirements and the thin. I believe this manager needs to bolster their depth a little bit. So I think that's going to help with Khalil Shakir in full point PPR. I mean, Shakir, he's not the most consistent person in the world, but I think he has a chance to take another step in the slot for Josh Allen next year. And I like Zach Charbonnet dynasty wise more than Alvin Kamara. So I think Zach Charbonnet can obviously provide RB1 upside anytime Kenneth Walker is hurt. Kenneth Walker only played 11 games last year. Zach Charbonnet, he's going into his 3rd season. Walker's going into his 4th and final year under his rookie contract. So Zach Charbonnet also could be the lead back in 2026 for the Seattle Seahawks. So that's Pretty intriguing there. I kind of like the 2-for-1 here with Khalil Shakir and Zach Charbonnet, considering this manager's roster. Even though Kamara will provide obviously a very safe floor, especially in full point PPR. But I mean, it's essentially Kamara and your typical 210, because this is a 14-team league. But for Shakir and Charbonnet, with the 14 teams, I mean, I'm sure there's, the talent spread. Not thin, but I mean, I don't know what the other managers look like, but I think this manager was in third place or whatever they were in, and his team didn't seem uber stacked here. So I think adding some depth with Shakir and Zach Charbonnet wouldn't be bad for this team. So I like the Shakir and Charbonnet side long term, and I think those two players will do enough to, I guess counteract just a Kamara in your lineup.
Yeah, no, I agree with Ethan here. I pondered it for a while, and I know even on the Discord, I was like, hey, I didn't have just an immediate answer, especially I think because the owner wanted to compete. Kamara just scored about 240 fantasy half point fantasy points, so a little bit more in full point. So initially it's like, man, it's tough to let Kamara go. I know Ethan's got a big history with Kamara ownership too.
Kamara.
And, but yeah, I think the more I thought about it as well, is like, hey, we talk about that hybrid approach in Dynasty. And I do think that Shakir and Charbonnet is just a smarter trade. And, we talk what's better, Dynasty trade. Sometimes like, there's some trades that you're like, hey, dynasty wise is better, right? But you can maybe sound like a lunatic for saying it. But I think this, to your point, just Shakir in full point PPR, even if Bills, do invest in wide receivers in the future too. I think Shakir is shown he's a target hog, right? So I like that for full point, and exactly what you said too. So Kenneth Walker's 25 season is most likely going to be his last in Seattle. So you're probably looking at least for a year left on Charbonnet's contract with Seattle as a starter in 2026. And not to mention, he's a great handcuff if Walker goes down, as we saw in 2024. So final answer is pull the trigger, make the trade.
This is a single quarterback too, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so obviously essentially the 210 in a 12-man league. I mean, that's probably not going to help you compete this year anyways, in single quarterback. But this class obviously isn't bad. There's a decent amount of depth. So, but no, I mean, I just think just in a pure dynasty lens, I think definitely Charbonnet and Shakir, and I think those two will do enough for you to help your roster, even if you move on from Kamara.
I guess I'll kind of go the other way with this one. I think I agree in that this is the right dynasty move. If you're a middling team, certainly if you're a rebuilding team, this is a move that you want to consider making, at least unloading Kamara. But I'm just kind of stuck on the fact that this team really wants to compete in 2025. I mean, Kamara was the RB5 last year in points per game, guys, in full PPR scoring format. So that's not a hammer that you give away if you want to win, if you want to try to win right now. And I like Zach Charbonnet as a piece too. He's been really good when Walker's missed time. When Walker plays, like, he's kind of the guy that they go to in that backfield. So I'm not really I'm not holding too much in on a handcuff running back if I'm trying to score points and win this upcoming season. And if I look at their new offensive coordinator, they signed Clint Kubiak, agreed to become Seattle's new offensive coordinator just this past week. And I'm scrolling back through his history here. I'm looking back. He's with Minnesota for 3 seasons in various roles. He was with Denver for a year, San Fran in 2023, New Orleans Saints last year. Everywhere he's been, they've been a one-back system, pretty much. They had some guys get injured, and that kind of caused the committee. But their goal going into all these places was a one-back system. And we know Kenneth Walker has been the lead back there. So I don't know if all of a sudden he's going to reverse course and become this guy who mixes and matches running backs. I don't know. He's got 2 good ones. Maybe he will. But I can just give you the picture of what we've seen out of this guy in the past. And I like Charbonnet better from in a dynasty standpoint than Kamara because he's a lot younger. And Kamara, once the second Kamara gets injured, his value is shot. But when the goal is to win, especially in these deeper leagues, it is a 14-team league. I know it's not crazy starting requirements, but you do need studs to win. And even the older guys like Kamara can help you win championships. So for that reason, I'm sticking with the Kamara side of this. If you are going to make the trade, though, one little piece quickly. Try to negotiate that 2.8 out of there. Maybe toss in a later second or a third round pick. But I mean, if you're sold on it, don't let it be a sticking point. But I'd always try to wiggle a little bit here to see if you can pay a little bit less if you do decide to go that route. But overall, I'm keeping it if you want to win right now.
I mean, I do agree with that logic, and that's why I am a little torn. Like dynasty wise, I think it would be. I mean, honestly, I may kind of want to look at this and see what else I could get for Kamara. But I mean, if you are competing, it is tough to move on from Kamara. But I don't think it's a terrible return at this point in his career. I mean, obviously, Alvin Kamara is a dying asset. Khalil Shakir and Zach Charbonnet, I mean, could be on the up and up. So I understand both sides of it, and I do understand and this is where you have to be very, very candid with yourself and your dynasty team. Like, are you a legitimate contender or are you not? Because if you are a legitimate contender, I can see you easily keeping Kamara. But I mean, if you're a middling team and you're hoping, where hope is part of your plan, then maybe I'm looking to take the Shakir and Charbonnet side. So you just need to be honest with yourself, look at your team objectively, and go from there.
Before we move on, we do have a follow-up question. Same league, same user. He also has the 112 in this year's draft. He's asking, would you trade away the 112 and a first-round pick in 2027 for K9?
I at this point right now in the offseason, I would not. That 112 is going to accrue in value as we get closer and closer to the draft. It's a very deep running back class. I would hold on for now. I mean, Kenneth Walker he's a great talent. He's been great when he's on the field. He just, I don't think he's finished a full year playing the full 17 games. So at this point right now, I would be a little hesitant to make that deal because I would let my 112 accrue in value. I mean, we're not in full rookie season yet. Let the rookie hype grow a little bit and see what else you can get.
I think the quick counterpoint to his logic there is like if he pulls the trigger on this trade, he gets Charbonnet and he ends up getting Walker. I mean, you kind of get a solidified starter there. Right?
Yeah, but I'm not looking to move Kamara, the 112, and a 27 first for a single backfield. To me, this roster needs a little more depth, and Walker and Charbonnet, you're probably not starting them both. So to me, you're giving up a lot of assets just to lock in one starter. I'd rather use my assets in a different way, get more starters, get more depth. If you are moving on from Kamara and those picks. So to me, it wouldn't be worth it to move all those assets just to lock in one starter.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're making this trade for Walker, you're not trading Kamara. Like you are setting yourself up for that, right, Ethan?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna move if you're gonna move 2 firsts for a guy like K9, it just keep Kamara and go. You know, I mean, it's like just go for it. So if you're really trying to compete, you might as well just keep Kamara and sell maybe your 112, your 27 first, or other assets that really aren't like hammers like Kamara, and try to build around Kamara for this year and just go all in. I mean that's really what you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, I'd probably hold off too on this trade, just because I mean if you're really going for it, I think 2 firsts is a little pricey, even though one of them's a late first this year. Like you said, deep running back class, and it sounds like this type of trade is going to be there for you down the road too. So I would hold on to it. And you never know too, like if you really go for it in 2025, then you never really know how your 2026 season is going to pan out. And then all of a sudden we're talking about your 27 first being an early first round pick potentially. And that would stink for someone else to have that. So I kind of like the idea of if you're going to move 112, packaging it with a second round pick this year, maybe even a second round pick in a future year. So you can keep your 27 first, but also give some later draft picks to try to help with your team in 2025. That's how I would approach that. But yeah, good question there from Kevin. Appreciate you sharing that with us, guys. Let's move on to our second one here. This is a 12-team half PPR Superflex league. We love Superflex around here. It's the best format. The team is a contender with a strong group of young wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends. Their 2 running backs at the moment are James Cook and Josh Jacobs, both guys who came in as top 12 running backs this season. But those are their only reliable backs on the team here. So they want to know if they should make a big move. They should trade away 3 2026 future first-round picks for the 101 this season, meaning that I would presume they're looking for Ashton Jeanty to go ahead and grab some running back depth. So they also did Perez a little more context, which is nice on the 3 first-round picks. 2 of them are projected to be mid-2026 first-round picks, and one of them is projected to be a late first-round pick. So a lot to unpack there, Aaron. We'll start with you, man. What do you think about this one?
I say smash, accept. I say go for it. I mean, you got a strong team. I know it's tough to try to trade 3 first, but I think we've all been there, right? Where like if you're trying to win, you gotta give up a little bit. Genty is gonna be a stud. I don't think there's ifs, ands, or buts about it. Not to mention too, the league's kind of going back to needing stud running backs, right? So you got a lot more shell defense out there. We saw that in 2024. That's kind of how the NFL changes every few years, right? So studs are back. I'd say get your stud, go get them. And then here's the thing, like if you're sad about trading 3 first, it's not like you probably can't get 3 first from Genty in the future. So I say go for it.
That's the least shocking thing I've ever heard from Aaron Downtown Brown. What was the line when the Rams did it? F them draft picks? Is that something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and that's more or less what's being proposed in this situation, guys. The big 3 for 1, 3 first-round picks, even though they're a year away, is a lot to give up, Ethan. So what do you think about this big boy trade?
I don't love giving up 3 first for running back. I don't really care what running back it is. It's the way I like to, I guess, build my dynasty team. If I'm going to move all those first, I usually like to make sure my quarterbacks are locked in. I don't know what this manager's team looks like, but I would use those firsts either on like my quarterbacks or guys like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, those locked in wide receivers that are going to be around for a long time. Tight end premium, my guy Brock Bowers. But now 3, I understand. I mean, because you look at what Jahmyr Gibbs did. He was winning people leagues. I mean, Saquon Barkley. I mean, if you get a back like with that kind of talent in the right situation, I mean, they win you leagues. I mean, Bijan Robinson was great this year. I understand being like, hey, these are 3 future draft picks. Let's just go for it. But I mean, that's a lot. And we all think Genty is going to be really good. But if I'm giving up 3 first, I mean, I would like to get a locked and loaded stud that's like guaranteed. Like, I mean, who else can I get with those 3 firsts? I mean, I would just make sure that this is the best use of my assets before pulling the trigger on this trade. And obviously just it would be nice to know what this team looks like, but I think it might be a little rich right now anyways for Genty, but I can definitely see why somebody with the 101 would need this, because it's like you're not getting any return. Like if it was my 101, like I mean, to me, it's kind of a boring trade because it's like, hey, I can't even get anything in the 2025 class, or I'm not getting any assets back that I can actually use this year unless I move those 26 firsts for other players. So I probably lean no at the moment. But I mean, I don't think it's crazy.
I don't think it's crazy either. I think it's what it's going to actually cost if you're serious about moving up to 101 and not giving up anything in this class for Genty. And I think Genty's going to be great too. I'm with Ethan though. I don't like giving up 3 firsts for a player that I'm not sure is going to be good. I mean, it's kind of pretty much regardless of position too. I mean, even the quarterbacks in Superflex in recent years, the guys like Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, who are supposed to be generational talents, haven't been thus far. And so I like to, if I'm giving up this haul of draft picks, I need something a little bit more proven, especially for a running back in Superflex formats. That tends to be the position that I discount the most. Where if you do need a little bit more help at running back, I think one more solid depth piece would be good for this roster. I could see moving a first-round pick, maybe plus a little bit of something else to get a running back to complement guys like James Cook and Josh Jacobs, who's getting older. I could see making a move like that. That's fine. But for now, I'm holding on to those 3 first-round picks and taking my shot a little bit down the road. Well, let's keep the train moving here, guys. Question 3 here. Got a 12-team league, 1 quarterback, half PPR league, start 8. The user didn't give us much to do with what's on their team, but they said they were looking strictly for our thoughts on this deal from a value standpoint. So I guess in a 1 QB, 12-team league, half PPR, start 8. Trade Jonathan Brooks for the 211, Ethan. What do you think?
It looks like my Jonathan Brooks shares are dead, right?
You and me both, man.
Yeah.
Welcome to the
I
party.
mean, yeah, it's just what an unfortunate situation. Jonathan Brooks, I mean, we were very excited for him to tear that same knee. I mean, you kind of got to this kind of trade is a manager that just kind of wants to rid themselves of Jonathan Brooks. They're probably concerned about his longevity, obviously in the league. Is he ever going to be the same player with the 2 ACLs in that knee? Honestly, I'm keeping Jonathan Brooks for the 211 in a 1 QB league is free. I mean, that's nothing. I mean, I get it. You have to wait. I mean, it's going to be another long recovery for Jonathan Brooks. But for me, I'd rather keep Brooks for the year and wait for his hype to build up. And then you can get a lot more than the 211, especially if he comes in fully healthy for the 2026 2027 season. You're going to get way more than the 211 in a 1 QB league. So I'm holding on to Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, no, I am too here. I think you just got to be patient with it. Be patient with the injury. Yeah, as you said, 211 and a 1 QB, half point PPR. I wouldn't rush to trade Brooks. It's not really a huge point because, I mean, if you don't really hit on the 211, you get like a diamond in a rough. Like, what else is going to happen? You're going to get a rookie that is probably going to sit next year anyway, and then the 2026, that's when Brooks is probably going to be back in action. So I mean, I don't think the value's there in the 211, so I would keep Brooks as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not there either. It's a clean sweep for me. The only opportunity cost you're really giving up that 211 to me isn't so much the player that you'd be getting if you sit there and make the draft pick. It's you're losing an asset to toss into a trade as a sweetener to go ahead and close another deal, but that's fine. Like, I mean, you could use Brooks in that manner if you wanted to as well. I think he's so. I mean, he was such a highly thought of prospect and drafted in the first round. And I know obviously that the injuries are brutal, but he's 21 years old right now. I mean, so he's going to be 23 2 years from now when he gets back on the field, presumably. So time is actually on his side. He obviously just requires a large degree of patience if you're gonna sit it out and wait for him to come back. So I understand not every manager is in the mindset to want to do that, but I think in Dynasty he actually might be an intriguing buy if this is around the price point where you can go ahead and get shares of him. I'll be all over him for a late second or an early third. I guess, Ethan, you said you're a Brooks guy and you're hanging on to shares of him. Wondering what to do. I guess around where do you think is the sell point if you're holding on to him?
In one QB leagues, the thing is nobody's going to give you a first right now for him. So, and in 1 QBs, like Aaron alluded to, I mean, I do think this is a relatively deep running back class. So I think maybe if you can get an early second round pick and you can just kind of maybe rid yourself of the risk, if you think there's going to be a guy that you like in that early second round in one quarterback leagues, even in super flex leagues, if you can get like a mid second, I can see yourself like I said, washing away the risk just because the second round, obviously in Superflex with the quarterbacks is going to push a lot of talent there. I don't think anybody's going to probably give you a mid-second round pick at this point, but I could see people moving for a in Superflex a mid-second, and then one QBs maybe an early second. But I feel like if you're not getting an early second in 1 QB leagues, you might as well just hold on. I mean, I know we've been spoiled recently in some of these drafts where you're getting some awesome players in the mid to late second round, even in the third round. But I mean, for the most part, especially in these 1 quarterback leagues, most of the time the hit rate in the second round isn't very good. So it's like you're basically just selling your Jonathan Brooks, who has high NFL draft capital, young, like Kamish said, he's going to be turning 22 in this July. So he has youth on his side. I need probably more than people are willing to pay at this point, but it all depends too. If you're a contender and maybe you can use Jonathan Brooks as a sweetener for a deal, but if you're a rebuilder, I mean, I'm just holding on to Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the move. I mean, I think maybe the best you're going to do is a mid-second round pick. on the clock. Like, so if there's a guy on the board that another manager really likes, that you're hanging on to Brooks and you're like, hey, I really like this guy. Maybe they like Brooks. I think that's probably about as good as you're going to do if you're selling him this offseason. But unless that comes to you, I think he's pretty much just firmly a hold. We got one more trade here to discuss. And we have a 12-team, one quarterback, half PPR league where you start 8. The team's looking to contend in 2025, and they have 3 solid RB2s, and they are deeper. They're pretty deep at wide receiver. Their best wide receivers are Puka Nacua and Brian Thomas, and they've been approached with an offer that the deal would see them trade away one of Puka Nacua or Brian Thomas Jr. and get the 101. So, Aaron, what do you think about this one?
You know, if the receivers were a little bit older, I would probably be pretty high on, as we were presuming, Gentry with the first pick. Considering these are, Brian's going to be year 2, Puka is going to be in his prime too. I probably wouldn't trade those guys away because they're just great foundation wide receivers to have in your squad for years to come. If they were slightly older, I mean, if you throw like AJ Brown in there or something, like, yeah, I'd probably do that. But I think considering they're just prime dynasty value, I would not make the trade. Like I said, if it was older, I'd do it.
Ethan, you traded a foundational piece at wide receiver for what could be a foundational piece in this format at running back?
No, I'm not. Puka and BTJ are just too good. They're foundational pieces, like Aaron said. I mean, right now, keep trade cut, crowdsource data. Puka's 8th overall, wide receiver 5. BTJ is 9th overall, wide receiver 6. Fantasy Pros Dynasty rankings. Puka's 8th overall, 6th wide receiver. BTJ is 9th overall, wide receiver 7. I mean, these guys are top 10 players in the league right now. Like Aaron said, BTJ is going into his 2nd year. Puka going to his 3rd. They're just, I mean, they're cornerstone assets. Why am I gonna give away a sure thing for a guy that we think is going to be a sure thing? But you just never know. I'm keeping BTJ. I'm keeping Puka. I need to be. Somebody needs to overpay me for those 2 assets.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm in lockstep too. I'm not trading either of these guys. I have both of these players as top 10 receivers or top 10 overall players in my rankings in one QB format. So I'm not bailing off either of them for Genty. So I have them ranked back to back as well. But I guess,
isn't it crazy what a year does, Commish? You were a massive BTJ fan, right, in the beginning of the season?
I was out on BTJ, but
I know.
When you get a year's worth of data, you have sometimes got to come around on some of your opinions rather than die on that hill.
100%.
Yeah, you never know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think he's. I didn't think he'd be in my top 10, but he is now. So congratulations. But yeah, I'm hanging on to him here pretty comfortably. What if, guys? I guess we'll manipulate the trade a little bit here. What if he just says, "Forget about it. Let's. I'm going to make this trade no matter what." Who would you rather give up, Ethan? Puka Nacua or Brian Thomas?
Ooh, in this format, considering it, I believe is this half point? Yeah, half PPR. I think. Oh God. I think. You know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with my guy BTJ. I know Puka's. This is my reasoning. Report just came out that Matt Stafford is going to come back for this year, but it's probably his last year. So it's one more year with Matt Stafford. So what's Puka going to look like in the future without Stafford? Where BTJ, I mean, he just put up a top 5 receiver season or close to it with the likes of Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones. Trevor Lawrence barely played. It was a lot of Mac Jones. So, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., I mean, he's not a guy that needs a lot of receptions to be a top 5 wide receiver that week. I mean, Puka has just been a target hog for Matt Stafford. So in this format with half point PPR and just the fact that Brian Thomas Jr., I think can do it with any quarterback. Give me BTJ, but I mean, you're flipping a coin basically.
Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I think long-term, I like BTJ. I think Puka could have a big time year in 2025, especially if Cup is out of the picture as well. I mean, Puka, it's going to be his team. But as Ethan said, I mean, just sacrificing one more year with Stafford, and then you have a question mark, with the Rams at QB, and then does Puka's stats drop slightly, right? Because we've seen what Stafford can do with his number one targets over his career. So Brian Thomas, Jaguars are stuck with that huge contract with Trevor Lawrence, and they have developed a little bit of rapport. So I kind of am a little bit more comfortable with that tandem than the obviously question mark with the Rams and Puka.
I hear where you guys are coming from. I have these players ranked, like I said, back to back in my rankings, and I actually Puka one spot ahead of Brian Thomas Jr. Just because I'm not going to punish him for not playing with bad quarterbacks ever. Like, he's made the most of playing with good quarterback play. Obviously, we've seen what Matthew Stafford can do in terms of making his wide receiver one an elite fantasy producer. So I want that in my lineup next year. I want that in 2025. I want the season Puka could give us if he decides to lock on to him the way he did Calvin Johnson in the past, the way he did Cooper Kupp in the past. And obviously the long term is unknown, but I mean, the long term, who's to say Trevor Lawrence is going to figure it out in Jacksonville anytime soon? And I know Brian Thomas Jr. showed us that he can play and be productive with poor quarterback play. That's great. That is a feather in his cap. That's why I have him in my top 10. But I'm going to trust Sean McVay, and I'm going to trust that Rams process to address the quarterback situation long term. And let's be honest, this offense that Puka plays in, guys, it's all over the NFL. It's not just run in LA. So, it's not like they're going to change this system anytime soon. He's going to be a target funnel no matter who his quarterback is in 2026 or 2027 and beyond. So I'm not really thinking too much about that for a 23-year-old wide receiver who just has one massive ceiling, could be WR1 overall if things break right for him in 2025.
No, I get it. No, I agree. Puka's just shown he's that guy right now. So it's hard. I get it. It's hard to you're splitting hairs right there. So I mean, both great players. Can I just have them both? Is that can we do that?
Hey, this owner obviously has them both. So kudos to that owner who does have them both on their team.
Yeah, just keep both of them and don't trade for the 101, I guess is our
yes, yeah, exactly. Keep those guys.
Is our advice on this one. I guess parting thoughts here quickly. Our guy Aaron actually took down a big DFS tournament on Wild Card weekend. I shouldn't say he took down the whole thing, but on a $30 investment, he walked away with in third place with $20,000 in that contest, Aaron. So talk to us quickly about what that experience was like and how you were on that Monday night game and the wild card round. What was it like being around you?
Oh man, I mean, it was definitely exciting. I mean, I've been, I've actually been, telling myself I'm getting closer and closer. The last two DFS years, even kicked my butt, all the 2024 season. But the cool thing, is just keeping track of trends and stats but a lot with DFS is a little bit of luck. I think, as we know, I'll probably buy a De'Ami Brown jersey because he definitely put me over the edge to put me in that high contention. So yeah, you need a little bit of luck, like my Chiefs do now and then too. But who doesn't need a little bit of luck in gambling too? But I just think overall is definitely exciting, and I try to throw out some fun little plays and stuff on our Discord and in our social media outlets that we have as well to try to spread the wealth.
I know I was rooting for you big time to close it out, buddy, but you didn't quite get first place. But it's one of those things you're probably really bummed at that in the moment. Maybe a little bit the next morning, then you're like, "Hey, man, I just paid $20,000 on a $30."
Hey, I blame Sam Darnold. That's who I blame. Hey, he took money out of your pocket.
He did. Sam Darnold probably owes me a big fat.
At least 20 G's. You know that. At least 20 G's.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. At least owes me 20.
The guy that was one of the guys that nipped at Aaron's heels had the Rams defense in his lineup, and Darnold was sacked a playoff record 9 times.
I mean,
but one of the last drive is what did him in. The difference between second and third, which was $20,000 difference.
Yeah, that was a wild ride. We were all in constant communication throughout that one.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
I had a lot of people pinging me too, and and I think I kind of alluded to it. In the off season. Like I said, I got like a little cheat sheet I was putting together all year, and it kind of gave me good like trends to kind of look at, and hopefully I can kind of turn that into more of a public thing. I can show a lot larger population once I got that thing fine tuned a little bit more. Maybe I'll get a little bit more first place in the future.
Well, there you go. There's nothing wrong with second place or third place in these big tournaments, Aaron, either. But yeah, shoot for the stars. Next time I'll bring home that $100,000 or maybe $1 million. You never know what tournament Aaron Downtown Brown's going to find himself in. But that was a quick fun episode, guys. Run down some trades again. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Like and follow as well. It's a big help. It's great for the algorithm. So please do that. And until next time, folks. Peace.